Okay, welcome back, everybody. Today is day 9 or August 7th. We got a great packed agenda. We have 7 finals to talk about tonight. And as usual, I'm going to pass it over to Frank Dick for a few opening words. Frank?
Thanks, Jimson. And to repeat, welcome, everybody. Special welcome, of course, to our fantastic panelists. I really appreciate the work you put into this week. Big welcome to everybody who's joining us for the first time. And for everybody else, welcome back. I won't run through everything that we've been running through all week. You know by this time about what the coaches associations are. You know how important they are to the future. And oddly enough, part of that importance was flagged today when I was speaking to the Chinese coaches club, because at the very last minute, they organized one. It's kind of a funny story attached to that. They weren't sure if I was going to be able to join, but I did. And the moment they did it, they realized they were going to have to get a hold of somebody to translate. And about 10 years ago, when I was speaking in Beijing, there was a guy called Jing Bojiang, and some of you may have used him in the past for translation. Well, they got a hold of him when he was out jogging, right? He didn't know he had to do this job. And he spent the entire session of his jog doing the translation for me, whilst listening to all the stuff coming in from the Chinese experts. So yeah, a bit of fun around that. However, one of the interesting things that came out of it was, first of all, I passed on your best wishes to them. They reciprocated, but they also wanted to know far more about how we had done our program, because they want to learn from that. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you yesterday, but after this is all over, I'm going to bring together the leaders from all of the sessions around the world, and we're going to talk about how can we use this new world that we're using right at this moment, how can we use it to better effect so that we can develop coaches and to develop coaching. One interesting thing they did that we haven't had enough time to try here was in real time, for example, the 10,000 meters women's race was being run. And the particular session we were doing was about women's endurance. And so in addition to watching the race and having comment coming in from around Asia about what was happening out there, tactics and so on, we were actually getting a lot of stuff about physiology, about biomechanics in real time. And there again, I think we've got so many things to learn about how we can use this media we've got now to enhance our coach learning and education. Anyway, I've passed them on their best wishes. They passed them on to you. Really good to see you tonight. Jimson, over to you to conduct the orchestra once more.
Oh, great. I'm only as good as the panelists who are here tonight. So thank you again for all attending. I know to commit 9 days straight in a row is a challenge, but we all appreciate it. And I also get a lot of comments privately on my email and social media saying how wonderful this is. And they're asking me how to continue this after the Olympics. So stay tuned. So let's start with the marathon, since it was for me late last night or early this morning. Hot conditions. Sapporo was even warmer than Tokyo, so that plan backfired. So I want to call our resident endurance expert, Gunter Lange from Germany. He's the world leader in endurance events, coaching, and high-performance strategic planning. Now Ugandan Special Presidential Assistant in Education and Sport. Gunter, welcome back. Your camera on. Yeah, so your initial thoughts on the women's marathon.
First of all, thank you, Jimson. I would like to be thankful to World Athletics and the Sport Medical Department, which decided to change the start time to 6 o'clock in the morning, which has definitely contributed to make these conditions for the athletes somehow easier. So we had during the race temperature starting from 25, 26 and going up to 31. So you had a double motivation to finish your race as fast as possible. On the other side, the humidity went slightly down from 78, 76 to around 60. And when we look at the total amount of did not finish, 15 out of 88 is definitely 15 too much, but we had worse results when you remember Moscow Marathon. So I think there was some damage control thanks to the changing of the starting time. The race, therefore, knowing that the conditions will be hot, was pretty much tactical. So until, let's say, 33 kilometers, where we then had 5 top athletes getting distance to the field, it was pretty much tactical. However, the, for me, amazing point was in overall, we had the first 6 in a seasonal best. I was not surprised to see our Kenyan friend Shepri cheer, because she was definitely, with 2 times half marathon champion, a good under distance athlete. Koske on second, but a total surprise for me. And I didn't have Seidel on my radar from USA. So we can see an overall trend from American athletes. And I think also that we have to look at the systematic work our friends in USA doing. And I think Randy Wilber is definitely one strong contributor to the increasing performance in endurance events. So far from my side.
Okay, and so just to be clear for everybody, the men's marathon, the time has not changed.
The men's marathon, we got the last message around 4 hours ago. It has not been changed. They stick to 7 o'clock.
Well, okay, perfect. And how hot was it? I mean, I remember, I think I was watching it, and I don't know how hot it is, but I was sort of cheering for Israel's Salpeter, and she was up there with the leaders. And then with 4 kilometers to go, she just stopped. And she walked, and I saw that she actually finished 20 minutes later. So she did finish, but was that because of the heat, or do you know anything more about that race?
I had a similar discussion today here with the Korean team, and their athlete, even on the last kilometers, lost orientation, asking where is direction to the finish line. And according to the team, I'm not sure if this is 100% correct, she even passed out. So the WBGT during the race was around 26. So not that bad, not that bad. I think that most of the athletes who have suffered with the thermoregulation have not done enough to prepare the conditions of this race.
Okay, no, excellent point. Any other comments on the women's marathon before I move on? We do have the men's tomorrow. And Gunter, can you come back again tomorrow night or tomorrow morning? Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, it was, again, very strange race, but still it's good to see high quality racing. I'm actually surprised about the course. Why to be a 20K lap first loop and then 2 10K loops? I guess it's for television, or I don't know. Any thoughts on that? No, just
no idea. No idea.
Maybe.
I have given up to try to understand here everything.
Well, sometimes it comes to sponsors, right? I mean, for the longest time, correct me if I'm wrong here, but for the Boston Marathon, the Prudential was their biggest sponsor, or the sponsor, and it was called the Peru Building for Prudential. And for the longest time, the finish line was at their Prudential building. But anyway, I think they changed it ever since then. But okay, I want to move on to high jump next, because high jump was exciting. I was watching Eurosport, so they had a dedicated feed the whole time, quite captivating. Seeing a lot of ladies still in the game after, I think, 192. So I want to call on Wolfgang Ritzdorf. He's a world-leading authority in high-performance high jump coaching and performance, now director of top international high jump and pole vault in conference in Cologne. Wolfgang, welcome back again. And your thoughts on the women's high jump tonight?
Yeah, hi, Jimson. Thank you very much. Yeah, there were a couple of observations, and like you said, I was lucky to watch the dedicated feed in Eurosport. Otherwise, in German TV, I saw only 2 or 3 winning jumps. So I could observe the whole competition, and it was really thrilling and exciting. I think, okay, the result was excellent. If you remember Rio, all the medalists made 197, what in fact was a poor result. This time we had 204, 202 meters for the medals. We had 5 2-meter high jumper girls, these women this year, and 3 of them took the medals. It was a little bit surprising for me that Lasitskene took the gold for 2 reasons. First of all, she showed up very late in the season after some injury. Then she had 1 good competition and 4 terrible competitions. And even in the Tokyo final now, she was almost out at 196. She had a really good luck in her 3rd attempt. The bar was shaking, but it stayed up. And then, okay, at the end, she took the gold with 204. And 8th position on 9 women went to cleared to 196. And this is really rare in the history of our event. And so definitely it was an outstanding competition. From a technical perspective, I would say, yeah, in an overall view, in my understanding, the women technically are better than the men. This is what we observe for many years now. One explanation for me is that they cannot compensate that much technical problems, technical deficiencies by power and strength. So they must be more precise in their technique. I was still surprised to find so many of them, maybe 5 or 6 in the final, using something what the high jumpers call the Russian style. That means opening with extremely long striding. And okay, 5 or 6 of them. It's not that common in the men anymore. And there's one interesting, but this is maybe specific for high jumpers, for high jump coaches. One of the Australian girls, not the medalists, but Patterson, she did something. Last time I saw it from a South African high jumper, Hestri Klöti, a huge wide double arm swing. Yeah. The South Africans called it the windmill arm swing. And okay. I already mentioned in the discussion of the men's high jump, the technical problems usually American jumpers have, and also this woman Cunningham from the US, also with this very specific technical model she used in especially jumping into the penultimate stride, like doing a dunk in the basketball, yam da-dum. That was a little bit specific. But the most interesting thing, and then I come to an end, no worries. The most interesting thing is from a coaching perspective, and I never ever saw it before. Jimson, if you followed this special feed, you will have observed it. Julia McDermott from Australia, who took the silver. Did you see what she did at the end of the jump? After the jump, she left the bed. She didn't go to the coaching zone. She didn't interact with the coach, neither non-verbal. She went back to the seat. She opened the diary and she took note of her jump. I never saw this before, and she made it totally consistent. And then at the end, I saw she did something even more special. Am I allowed to share my screen? Is it possible?
Oh, hang on.
Go for it, yeah.
I got to give you access here in a second.
Just before in my...
No, go ahead.
In my English, before I explain. Can you see that?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
So this is what she did. This is her T-shirt, the second T-shirt she used, and she had something like a grid on her T-shirt. Here you have some items like bar clearance or up the race to the bar. For sure, here is something like for the run-up. I took it from the TV, so that's the best I have. And then she awarded points for every jump for all these items. I never saw this before. And the amazing thing is for me that she did a PB, she did an area record, And if you check the numbers she awarded herself, you find a lots of 7 and 8 and 6 and 8 and 7 and only very few 10s. So that was very surprising for me. And both this behavior, going back, taking note in a diary, and using this, I stopped sharing, right?
That's fine, yes.
And taking note in a diary and then awarding points to different aspects of the jumps. For me, I never saw it neither in the high jump nor in any other event. It was, from a coaching perspective, the most interesting part of the high jump.
Yeah, no, obviously coaches do it. I never saw athletes do it on the field. I actually thought she studied Egyptian in college and she was doing hieroglyphics. That was what I thought. I mean, like quickly, you know, and then I realized, oh, wait a minute. Laura, Turner-Alleyne, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I've got a question, please, Wolfgang. You already mentioned that Lasaskina had a bit of a messy card and almost went out of 196. What do you think changed for her through the competition for her to be able to clear 204? What was different from the early part of the competition to the end of the competition?
I'm not sure. Maybe it was a lack of competition experience in this year. She had only 4 big competitions before the Olympics. 3 of them were terrible. 1 was a good one. So maybe she needed a certain number of jumps under competition conditions to arrive at her best, because physically she was ready. Otherwise, you cannot jump, you cannot clear 204. That's not even for her. And the second argument is she was 3 times world champion. She was an Olympic medalist. So maybe she had the confidence that physically she is ready, she can do that. And after that, rusty 196, yeah, she had another foul in 98, then a 2-meter clearance, no foul, a 202, I think, second attempt. And she took the lead with this jump from Dermot. And yeah, for me, the explanation is the number of competition jumps. Maybe it was missing before. I don't know.
Okay, anybody else question? I see Frank has a question on high jump. Or
Yeah, it's am I in okay? Yeah.
Yep.
It's related to that. First of all, as a former high jump coach myself, I've always been utterly fascinated in listening to Wolfgang, because I know of no other person in any other event who's got such deep insight into the detail of the event, as you've all just heard. And so what I was going to recommend to all of you, I mean, if you like the stuff, the quality of material that Wolfgang presents, I'd like him to tell you what's going to happen in November in what is the greatest coaches conference on high jump and pole vault on the planet. Wolfgang, give us a quick advertisement.
Yeah, just let me give you, it's a biannual conference on pole vault and high jump. It should have happened last year. It was not possible due to Corona. I do hope we can do it this November, 12th till 14th. Definitely, I will only do it if it's possible to do it face-to-face. We have excellent web-based courses, seminars, conferences during the year, and it was outstanding experience. But I believe coaches are hungry to interact, for the personal communication outside the conference hall and for practical demonstrations. And besides our president, Frank, we have a great lineup of speakers in this conference, including the high jump Olympic gold medalists from Italy, Tamberi, and also the parents of Mondo Duplantis are coming. Both of them confirmed to be there in this conference. And I think this is the best setting you can have. And I do hope that it can work and it's possible to do it in November. We start planning now. We will present it on our website, the program and the speakers. but for sure you will understand for the moment, no one can give you 100% guarantee that it's possible in November. The university is ready, German Sport University, to support it and to make it possible. But yeah, let's wait and see, but I'm quite optimistic and I do hope to welcome some of you. Usually we have 250 participants in this conference, and with a combination of workshops, of practicals, and of classroom presentations.
And the beer is fantastic too.
Great. And if Frank or Wolfgang can just type in the chat the dates.
Yes.
Peter Thompson, you had your hand up. Comments on the women's high jump tonight?
Yeah, just a real quick comment there, Jimson, is I think, we all observed, and Wolfgang, I thought that was really fascinating watching her work with her diary. And Nicola, I kind of was interested because when she was jumping, it was almost like she was in raptures, she was in a place which was different. I wasn't sure why that was, whether she worked with a sports psychologist who created that kind of mindset or what. So I started looking online, and she's actually a very, very deeply religious person, Christian religion. And she's got her own ministry online, which is nicolamcdermott.com. So if you want to learn more about Nicola, that all those expressions she had, and it's interesting, as a coach, sometimes you wonder perhaps how a focus on religion can perhaps get in the way. But I think here's a case where it provided an immense focus.
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah, I believe even John Drummond, the American sprinter, is also a pastor, I think, in church. And I think there are even a couple other ones. Jonathan Edwards, was he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Son of a pastor.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's great. Okay, let's move on to the 4x400 meter women's relay. I want to call on a couple of people. First, we'll start off with our resident sprint expert. We have Christine Harrison-Bloomfield, former TeamGB national team athlete, now a high performance sprints coach who has worked with Olympic gold medalist Christine Ohurugu. Let's start with the women's 4x4. I also want to call on other people like Piotr, you're still online. Hopefully we'll come on Poland, but Christine, your thoughts first on the women's race.
I was excited as soon as we heard the USA team. So remember, Sydney McLaughlin, I said her name wrong, came first in the 400 hurdles, world record. Dila Mohammed, second in that race. Alison Felix, third in the 400. Amu Athing, first in the 800 meters. But if you remember in the NCAA, ran 49, 50, 50 to do the world junior record, but now it's obviously that's been taken away from her. So for me, I'm looking at the splits. There was a 50.2 from Sydney, 49.3 from Alison, 48.94 from Mohammed, and 48.32 from Mu Yaping. So to me, that was, they looked dejected when they came across the line because they hadn't broken the world record, and I'm sure they expected to break it. And the funny thing is, Alison was probably the weakest link out of all those ladies, and a weak link at 49.3. So if you looked at all the other ladies in the other teams, so the Polish team, two of them ran 49, so 49.9, 49.89. In the Jamaican team, nobody broke 50 seconds. But what was interesting is the Jamaican team didn't have McPherson in it, who came, I think, 4th or 5th in the individual 400 meters, which was quite interesting. But they brought back in Sharika Jackson, who had won the bronze medal in the 100 meters, because she'd won the bronze medal at the last World Championships in the 400, but she was doing the 100. She's gone down to the 100 and 200 this year. So I found that quite interesting. But Canada, I'm going to mention Canada because you appreciate. They ran extremely fast as well, but Great Britain ran their third fastest ever time, but only one person broke 50 seconds. So I think it was quite an interesting race, but the Polish keep on just outperforming other nations who you expect to outperform. I expected Jamaica to come second, but obviously they didn't. And I think it was all to do with the people and the positions they put people in and how people ran. I think Britain made a big mistake, not being horrible, but putting Amma Pippi on first leg. I think they should have put Emma Diamond, who had already run 51.50 on the first leg in the heats, and she had already run 50.18 in the mixed relays earlier on in the competition. So it's very interesting.
Well, speaking of Poland, we have Piotr Hashick. He's a 3-time medalist at the 97, 99, and 2001 Worlds 4x4 relay. I know I was in the stands in Edmonton that time, so I was there to watch that race. So not a coach, not an athlete, but a fan. Yeah, Piotr, welcome back. Can you comment on Poland or in general, the women's 4x4?
General, I will comment. I will agree with Christina that the USA was outstanding. As you can see, this is like 4 medalists already from the Olympics individual. So it was maybe looking for some world record. If I look into Poland, the squad was set as expected. And I think so. I will more expect from the Święty. She was as a last runner based on her PB, but I know she was defending just position. She didn't chase the time. She was just defending the silver medal. But even that, if we look in the results, what Poland ran is Polish records. They want to run sub 3:20, but this is actually best time since Osaka by European team. So this is like very, very fast. Jamaica, the same what Christine say. Surprised that McPherson didn't be in the team, and actually Candice McLeod, she was individual number 5. She didn't deliver in the relay as I will expect it. And if I can comment on the GB team, I will say, I don't know who is set up the team, but they make the biggest mistake to not put Judy as a first. You need to keep the train if you want to fight for the medals. If you lose the train, you lost. Yeah. And putting someone who running 51.50, and you have someone who running sub 50, and based on the deep what they have in the squads at the moment, I will always start with the fastest. And the other girl, 52.5, she ran 51.17 few days ago. That's underperforming 1 second, more than 1 second. And Olympics, I don't know what they do, but I will base what I saw in the heats and individual. I will not put this 4 person in the GB team, and I will put completely different order to actually try to fight for the medals.
No, good point. A couple of hands.
Netherlands, I was actually expecting more from the 2 D White. They didn't deliver as I will expect in the relay, because if they deliver, they have 2 other runners and they can be actually maybe top 3 fighting for the top 3, but they didn't deliver too.
No, that was apparent yesterday. A couple of hands up here, actually. Peter Erickson, hand up on the relay comments.
Yeah, well, side comments on the Canadian team. This was the 4th championship. They were 4th place. So 2016, the world relays, and now again the 4th. And I think they did a really good job, and they had the strongest on the last leg, Sage Watson, but she was overtaking in the last 50 meters. I know it was a great disappointment from them, but I think in general, that's good for the team they have.
Okay, Rita, comments on the relay.
I know that Sydney started, and that's usually your slowest leg, but I have to comment on Delilah Mohammed's 48.94, which was an absolute incredible time for her to run. And I mean, we saw that during her race as well, that she's definitely faster than what Sydney is over the first 350 meter hurdles. And it is just that I think that I don't know what has happened to her in that last 3 or 4 meters, if she just gave up or whatever. But if we look at the results in the relay and we compare it, it's difficult. I would have loved to know what Sydney would have run on that leg. But I don't know if she would have gotten to 48.94. Mohammed is just an incredible fast sprinter at 31. Amazing. And I think they are really blessed to have 2 400 hurdlers that could help in their 4x4 running that time. Just a comment on the speed of the 400 hurdlers.
Yeah, no, for sure. Frank, you have a comment on that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Rita on that, but Also, I have to say I was mesmerized by Mu, or is it Me? I don't know how you pronounce the last name. At 48.32 split to finish the run, and it occurred to me that perhaps if somebody thought about it early enough, she could have won both the 4 and the 8.
Mm-hmm. Agree. And speaking
Frank, her focus was on the 800 ever since USA trials. Next Olympics,
Yeah.
she says that she wants to try to do the double.
Good. Thanks for that, Kev.
that would be good. And speaking of 48 point, people forgot that Femke Bol ran 48.9, I believe, on her anchor leg tonight. So that was fascinating. And like Piotr said, if Holland had the middle, second and third runner better, I think, Holland would have definitely won a medal this time around. They're just, they have a superstar, a really good sprinter, and 2, mediocre ones. But, give it some time. All these European countries are developing. So it's good to see, parity showing up. And then that's more apparent on the men's side, which we'll get to next. But any more comments on the women's 4x4? The irony, just one last stat, I know this is the European call, but the Americans actually used 8 different people. They had 4 different people running both days. And the person who won the trials wasn't Alison Felix. Hayes, she came in 7th in the individual final yesterday. And because of yesterday, I was talking about the scheduling, she didn't run the opening round because she was running the 4 the next day, and then she wasn't chosen for the final. So here you win your trial selection, you're number 1, and then you don't run the opening round, you don't run the final round. It makes you wonder about the trial selection, but I think we can all agree it all comes down to coaches. It's all coaches, and so okay. Okay, let's move on to the men's 4x4. Christine, I'll get you to call again here first. What can I say? I mean, if it weren't for the Trinidad team getting injured, they would all run 2:58 or faster. Can you imagine running 2:58 and coming in 7th? I mean, incredible. Christine, thoughts on the men's race?
Again, the USA won, obviously, but what was interesting is they put the 2 400-meter runners, the ones that came 4th and 5th, on the first 2 legs, which all of you agreed is probably the best thing. However, the last 2 runners made it for the American team. They were the outstanding runners because it was 44.01 and 43.40 in the last leg. So the last leg, Rye Benjamin was just outstanding and consistent in his running throughout the whole run, and he didn't give up. That was interesting for me. The Dutch, I think the last leg runner, Ramsey Angela, was that last leg run, and his consistency and holding his form and never giving up until the end of the run. I think, because I didn't think he was going to get the Botswana guy, because the Botswana team, I mean, they started off with 43.8, okay, and they ended up on 44.20, okay, whereas the the Netherlands team started off on 45 flat, and that's where the weakness was in the Netherlands team. So they may have gone a lot faster and quicker. So the Netherlands team ran a national record, the Botswanan team ran an area record, the Belgian team ran a national record, the Italian team ran a national record, and everybody else ran a season's best except Trinidad and Tobago. So the standard in the 4x4 men's was incredibly high, and it would have been hard for people to win medals. And that's all I've got to say, really.
How about back to you, Piotr? Any comments on the men's 4x4?
Yes, as a USA, as expected, but I will actually be looking more from Norman. He just ran 44 flat, and I will actually looking more because it will be Olympic records. So he didn't deliver as I will expect it from someone based on his PB. And Netherlands, good strategy. Runners deliver on the day. That you get the medal. Botswana, Botswana, if you're looking, they always put the top 2 on the front because they know they don't want to lose the train. Even if you're looking back the historical runs, they know they have 2 strong, always the 2 strong running well. Belgium, we know the borderless. I know the borderless coach, so I know the strategy will be, they will be ready for the final and they deliver national record. Poland, very poor run by 3rd runner, but he's young but tactical, he ran very bad. And I will expecting running more than seconds faster from him, as I know. But generally, it's a great run. If you're looking, number 5 in the heats was the fastest in the history. And number 6 will always give you medal between 2000 and 2012. So that's actually show the depth of the run. And if we know that Trinidad will be not injured, it will be probably more. And based on US, you know, they have very smooth changes. The rest of the team have a little bit battle on the second, third. So maybe even it will be more space and more smooth run. I think so even times may be a little bit faster.
I agree with that. Rita, comments on that?
Nice cat. Nice cat.
I like your cat. I like the cat. Just wanted to say about a lesson to be learned from Botswana's run is that their last runner started stretching his strides, the fourth last stride, he started stretching for the line instead of keeping his momentum and just running hard with his arms. So therefore Holland just pipped them. They were tremendously disappointed after the run. They really expected to take the gold. But again, you cannot at that level of competition, and as Christina said, a tremendously high standard, you cannot make a mistake like that and stretch the last 3-4 strides for the line. You have to run as hard as you can through the line not to lose momentum, and that's what he did.
No, true. 2 comments. Start with Peter first and Laura after. Peter Thompson?
Yeah, just a quick one, Jimson. Thank you for that. Just some stats, really, because I was amazed at Terence Agard on the second leg for the Netherlands. And I looked into his background, and he has a lifetime best in the 400 of 45.61. And his lifetime best in 2015 for the 200 was 20.78. And the average, his lifetime career average of his 10 best 400s is 45.88. And the average of his top 10 200s is 21.01. So it'd be really interesting to find out where he got that ability to do that performance.
Yeah, 43.7. Great. Incredible.
Probably shoes and fast track. Laura, then Piotr after.
I wasn't suggesting that, Jimson. I was going to.
Laura?
Thank you. I just wanted, Rita's already mentioned it, but I just wanted to highlight again the 400 hurdler, the American guy, Rai Benjamin. I think it's significant that these guys are able to run the 4x4 because it's not always the case with these 4 hurdlers, but I think it's really interesting that maybe we're seeing, I mean, we saw it with Chris Akabusi years and years ago, but I just wonder how common that's been in the last decade or so, and is it becoming more common that the 4 hurdlers can run really good 4x4 legs?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's go to Piotr first before Michael. Piotr?
Comments to Peter about the times. I'm not sure the first actually times best 1 and 2 runners are actually 100% accuracy, because it's, for me, I'm confused looking for some guys, and I still need to probably time myself when I record it. But I don't know how good accuracy is for the equipment, what they have at the moment. But in the past, I know there was some not great results when they're coming later on, more qualified times. So, but this, if you say 45 to 43.7, that's the good relay runner, I will say.
For sure.
Yeah, that sounds good. Michael Bennett, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I also make a comment based on the 400 hurdlers being in the 4x4. It's often done, especially in the U.S. college system, where you have 400 hurdlers will also run the 4x4, because you may not have 4 or 5 runners on your team that specialize in the 400, where there are a 45 or 44 second 40-minute runner, but you may have a 44 second 40-minute runner, 1 or 2 of them. Then you may have a 48 second or a 47 second 400 hurdler, where they can come in and they have a pretty high average speed and come around in a relay. What about a high 44? So that's how oftentimes it's done, where you have the 400 hurdlers will fill some of the spots in on the floor 4. And I've done it very often with my collegiate athletes.
Okay, thanks for that. Chris White, you have your hand up? Chris, unmute.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I was just kind of come back to the Michael Norman and Rai Benjamin are actually training partners. So them being on a relay together, I think also goes to the fact that, you know, you're putting that comfort, someone that you know is on the team with you, like a brother who's gone through these hard workouts with you. And when we seeing these guys run these spectacular times, as I think they were speaking earlier of a guy who rose to the occasion to run a really fast split, it goes to your, you know, the state of arousal that you are in those big time moments. I see it time and time again with our athletes. They'll come to a big meet and on a relay split will split something phenomenal versus when they didn't have a great meet altogether. I just thought that I think we saw that in quite a few events, even in the 100-meter men's with the Italian.
Yeah, good point. Kevin Ankrum, you had your hand up. Comments on that?
Yeah, when I was running the relay program in Ireland, 400 hurdles, 800-meter guys were some of my best relay splitters because they were tough. It was all about, you know, when it came to European championships, if we could double up and the schedule allowed it, we definitely had, I mean, guys were splitting, you know, low 44s who were 800-meter runners and my hurdlers better than the open 400-meter guys. And there's a lot of complaints about, oh, you're bringing them in and they're not being good and their splits are better. So it was just going to prove that, you know, coming from smaller countries, you have to utilize your best when you can do it. And I find that even, you know, just like USA threw a Mo in there, she's an 800, 400 specialist, but again, she split a great time. So I would think, you know, again, as we start to expand out, the 800 becomes more of a sprint than it is a long sprint. And at the end of the day, I think it's a great utilization depending on the size of your team and how it goes. But I think that's a trend that's not going away.
No, definitely. I know it's always a coaching decision, and those who get left out will always be, you know, upset and bitter. But still, at the end of the day, coaches make that decision, and that's why they're there for.
But the split tells a lot. I got a lot of heat for throwing in Mark English, who was a 145 guy and then he 44 guy, and he comes in and splits a low 44 in the split, shuts everybody up. But at the end of the day, I mean, you know, that was a decision that benefited the team. So what did it make a difference?
But look at the chat here. Peter Thompson put some times for Terrence Agard for Holland, and you look at his real splits that I just put up. I mean, how do you go from 46.09 to 43.7 on a relay run? Your coach must know the athlete really well, and you better have a lot of confidence in that person to take it out. So, Frank, comments?
Yeah, I think just okay. It's a long time ago, but as head coach in the UK, was in charge of the relays. In the 4x4, I think you have to learn to make serious judgment calls. That starts off with really knowing your people. You've got to know your people. So let me give you an example of 3 people. First of all, Chris Akabuzi, who we put onto the last leg in to beat the United States in Japan. And Chris on a flat 400 wasn't worth much. Put him in a relay and he's a different animal. Same was there's a young guy called Gary Cook. Most of you won't know Gary, but you'll know his wife, Kathy Cook, or Kathy Smallwood as she used to be. And Gary Cook was an 800 meters boy. We put him in the relay in the European Championships, and he ran the fastest split of any athlete in any country in the championships. Again, put him in a relay situation, and for some athletes, it's as if a burden's been taken off them. They don't think about things the same way, and there's a freedom to run. And finally, we had a last leg runner called Pete Brown. Now, Peter Brown anchored us to titles all over the place, but he would always out in the first round of the individual event. And so I come back, it is a judgment call. You have to know your people, but understand this, there is a freedom that comes when you put people into a relay that doesn't exist when they're running the individual race. And as a coach, know your people and make that judgment call.
Yeah, it's like Richard Kilty, right? I mean, if he runs 10.3 or 10.2 during the year, I still want him third because he has the best hands I've ever seen. And if I was an American football coach, I'd hire him for wide receiver because he handles that baton so smoothly and flawlessly, receive and take. So anyway, that's my take on Richard. Back to you, Piotr. You have your hand up.
Yes, I will say, as I agree with Frank, because I was kind of the runner when I actually deliver more in the relay. And if you as a coach didn't know your runners, how they deliver individual versus relay, you can set up the best team. If you meet the team once per year, just in the pre-camp, you will never know them.
True. Yeah.
Jameson, you mentioned Edmonton. Before Edmonton, I have run 46-13 Polish championships. 2 months later, I ran 44-17 in Edmonton, because my coach know I can run 44 something in the relay. And the coaches need to know the runners, okay, he will deliver, even he not deliver individual, he will deliver in the relays. And that's the problem for a lot of people who are in charge of the relays on championships. They didn't know the runners well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you want, anyone here wants high octane entertainment, join the USATF Sue Humphrey calls with Brooks Johnson. If you want some good American trash talk and relays, and just join them. I mean, they'll talk about it all day. So any more thoughts on the relay? Because I'd like to move on to the javelin. Any more final thoughts on relay? I think we've covered it.
Just one question, Jimson. We saw for the first time a mixed relay. Okay, I don't think we did discuss it, but we didn't ask the question. Is this a great thing to have? Is it something we should be developing, or is it a waste of time?
Yeah, Christine first.
I think it's quite important, actually. I think it gives a different dimension. I'm not convinced about it being before all the other events, but where else can it go in the program? It can only go at the beginning. And I think it allows you to develop other athletes that may not have the opportunity to run an individual event, but they can develop on that. And it also gives people the confidence going into a championship, because we had Emily Diamond. So she ran both rounds of the mixed relays, and then she came out and she ran her personal best in the 400. So some people, it enables them to have that bit more confidence, and also it gives you, it's like an easy way into the championships. It eases that person into championship if they're not going to be individual, and also if they are going to be individual, I think it's a good platform for confidence and building, to the future.
Yeah, Frank, you open up a can of worms. I got 4 or 5 hands up. Okay, so keep it short here. Chris White, you go first. Mixed relays.
Yeah, I think the mixed relays are great, especially when at major championships. It really gives the athletes a different perspective, and especially bringing the males and the females together. You see a lot of times I'll speak from here in South Africa, because I'm working in South Africa at the moment. With the South African teams, the men are a lot more experienced on the international stage than the females are. So by putting them together, it kind of helps them to try to, basically mentor them on a global stage. Our team went for the world relays, and obviously they didn't make it through, but the girls that went there, they came back and they're like, Coach, I think we can really do better the next time. It was so much better having guys who've been there before. So I think it's a great thing. It brings excitement, especially you see the difference. You can clearly see the difference between the male and the female athletes biologically.
Yeah, I think Poland has a different opinion. So for that, I'll go to Piotr. What's your opinion on mixed relays?
I actually enjoy it, and I think it's very important to have it, especially for the small country when you are very difficulty to actually get the 4 runners in the one gender. So when you get the small country, when you have 2 guys and you can find next 2, but you can get the 2 girls, it gives you opportunity to perform. And if people complain about the programs, I will just remind the people that I'm dinosaur, but the Olympics before was 4 runs individual and 3 runs in relays. Yeah. So extra runs make nothing extra, because you have extra people with, and if you want to use the people to 2 relays, is nothing. Yeah. Even they can not waiting, they can starting in the get some extra run and be ready. So I think so is great, and I think so is great to show especially the mix, because if you look in the other sports, all sports actually using the mix to be more attractive, and the political and everything is very important. We have that.
Yeah, no, true. I know a lot of all-comers meets do the 4x100 meter first as a first event. And that's great because it breaks the ice. You warm up early, you do it, whether you drop or not, the baton doesn't matter. You're warmed up, you run it. and then an hour later you run your race and you're all warmed up, all loose. So yeah, you're right about that. Extra rounds don't hurt athletes that much. Two more people. Michael Bennett, your thoughts on the mixed relay?
Yeah, so I think it is good, but I think I wouldn't want to have it hosted in the World Championships or the Olympics because the athletes that are normally the best performers, whether it be in the 400 or in the 100, would not be in the mixed relay. So I think it'd be best reserved for the World Relays and other invitational events like that.
Yeah, true. Okay, and Rita, comments on the mixed relay?
Just a short comment in that is that I agree. I think a lot of what I wanted to say was being addressed by the previous speakers, and I agree with Peter that the smaller countries sometimes have two excellent or maybe three excellent males and two females, and they don't have enough to make up the 4x4. But I do think that the timing of having it in the beginning, even if it helps some athletes to relax, it doesn't work that way for everybody. And I think that if they want to make it a permanent feature, I would like to see it with the other relays, not in the beginning. I think that it's such an awesome way to finish the games or the championships with the relays. Why must the mixed relay be first? Have it with the other relays. And if you can't have them both teams, by all means, then you don't run it. But have it with the other relays, and I think it will have more clout.
Yeah, true. Piotr, comments? Piotr?
Yes, I will say based experience regarding the build-up. As a, for example, Poland won it, and I see what's happened in the social media and the media in Poland general about the Olympics when the Poland won it, when I was actually waiting for the medals, and athletics started in this way. When you have the nation who didn't have the chance, didn't stronger, but they perform well, is actually bring attention to the athletics from the first day or first 2 days. So it's, you know, I know for the athletes, for the coaches, will work very well on the end, and especially when we're looking individuals. But if we want to have the spectators to focusing and have the people numbers, when we actually sell it later to the sponsors and everything, what is also important to develop the sports, we need to have something from beginning. I know the program is very difficult to set up to be attractive from first to last day. I did the same with the European Championships. I know how it was difficult to set the attractive program, but I think it's actually, even with this new one, it's actually very good attention at the moment. And I think so, we should keep it. And if we pack this to the later stage, that's made to bring, we need to have more athletes to the team, and that will be not allowed by IOC because this is the quota. So that's, we may lose the actually chance to keep it if we want to extend the quota. So everything will be fighting.
Yeah, then it's for us in athletics to fight our corner and require it to be put in, because actually they've expanded in swimming. They've expanded the number of relays and mixed relays. And so I don't believe that they would shut the door. It's a very good point, Piotr. I'm not arguing against you. I think your argument is very strong. But if we believe in something strongly enough, we have to fight for it.
But Frank, I want to be aware that we bring the relays and we scratch the other events which are not popular because they don't have TV. As for example, I will say our hammer throwers, Poland, they're actually fighting. They don't have enough attention. Even if you're looking the hammer in this year, it was very great performances and very interesting, especially when Norway delivered the medal.
I think that's another very good point. It's actually, obviously these things are related, but I think, you know, one of the things I tried to point out earlier on about GACA and so on, and what we can do at world level is, I think we need a formal request on behalf of coaches to take that argument to World Athletics and insist that, for example, in Diamond League, they're eliminating some of the throws events, which I think is very, very bad. It's damaging to the sport. I mentioned the other night there about this crazy business of this new formula for some of the field events, where you could do 5 rounds and then you forget the first 5 and you have one left. I don't know who came up with this, but that was all for television and to be exciting. And I think we should be arguing these points because, okay, I admit I'm to the right of Genghis Khan on these opinions. I believe that sport is first of all about performance, and secondly, it's about entertainment. And if we're not very careful, it's going to be put the other way around. And who is in charge of entertainment? It's TV.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, TV will change our sport completely. And it's for the coaches, it's for you to put your hand up and put the case forward so that we can take these arguments back to World Athletics and put them before council.
Okay, good points. We got half an hour left. I got 3 more events to cover, so I want to do javelin throw next. You know, I wish I live in England now, and I wish I could turn back the clock a week and go to Ladbrokes Coral or Paddy Power or Betfred and put, you know, £1,000 on the guy from India to win the gold medal in javelin, and I could retire now, you know, but that didn't happen. So I'm doing this Zoom webinar now. And so let's welcome our resident javelin expert, Anders Bergstrom. First of all, your comments on the javelin, and second, talk about the India fellow who won.
Thank you. In general terms, the competition was approximately of the same level as the previous global championships, with one exception. The World Championships in London 2017 was on a higher level. 3 meters more was required to achieve a medal, but otherwise approximately the same level. Europe dominated concerning the number of throwers, 10 reaching the final, 2 participants from Asia, but Asia won the gold. And out of the gold, the Pakistan thrower had reached a 5th place. Just looking at the results, you could say, pretty poor. But on the other hand, take a look at the individuals who took the 4 first places. Chopra just half a meter behind his personal best, and the other 3, Vadlec, Vesely, and Julian Weber, produced their season best at the right moment. Just as in the women's competition, where, of course, Andrejczyk didn't produce her season best, but she overcome a very difficult last period of preparation before the games. The other 3 produced their seasonal best. In the women's javelin, Nemeth javelins were dominating. In the men's, the Nordic javelins dominated in the same way. Weather conditions, no big problems. Okay, the humidity over 80%, that's of course tough in the long run. The surface was discussed pretty much after the men's qualification, and the organizers had tried to repair the surface, but still the top part of the surface was rather fragile, and you could see it, for example, on Vetter's throwing. He slipped away rather severe. And looking at the conditions, some people had said, okay, Vetter chose to switch his shoe brand just a few weeks before the games. Could that be a question? New shoes? His coach, Boris Oberefeld, says, no, this was not the problem, it was the surface. Okay, concerning the technique, a general check on the technique, both from the qualification and in the final, was that the problem with the surface, that was for those who used very fast approach and planted the left foot when the angle between the left leg and the surface was rather low. And directly after planting the foot, they went into a more or less brutal block. And that created quite a lot of not only vertical force, but also horizontal force. And if you have problems with a fragile top surface, that will be enlarged with those kind of technique. And we could see that during qualification, all throwers, with one exception, who had a personal best over 90 meters were eliminated. All the other throwers, with one more exception, who had a personal best over 89, were eliminated. And in the final, the only remaining athlete who had produced over 90 meters, a supreme athlete, second best all time, Johannes Vetter, he was eliminated after 3 rounds. Something to think about both concerning Mondo. How will they produce javelins tracks in the future? Have they something to learn from this? Yes, I think so. It has been a tremendous track, as far as I know, for running and for jumping, but for javelin, I'm not quite satisfied. Well, that's my general opinions, and I can answer questions if requested.
So my first question is, the Javelin Spikes, the elements, is it 9 millimeters? Are they using?
No, 12 millimeters.
So, and to have that slip, I mean, I watched Vetter's second throw, and he slipped like, it was just horrifying to watch.
Yes. It was 20, 30 centimeters he slipped, and it was the same with my former athlete, Zheng, in the qualification. He slipped around 20 centimeters. All power force was of course lost, and most of all, the mind was lost after that. They lost the trust in the track.
Yeah. No, obviously, and it's a shame that Sean Pickering's not here tonight, because he actually warned us about the javelins, the surfaces and ahead of time. But I think it was good to see Asia, come out with, like top 5, right? 1st and 5th. And I think it's, I mean, we had Trinidad win a gold medal many years ago, and that was, he made it famous because he watched YouTube videos to learn. So I think it's good to see some global athletics here, some lessons learned. Any more comments on javelin, Anders? I think it was a good synopsis. Thank you very much.
I can just add a few things concerning India. We mentioned earlier that they had really tried to bring some knowledge to their country. Uwe Horn was invited first. He succeeded Gary Calvert. Rest in peace, my brother. He was a very, very good coach and created a very good fundament in India. And that was continued by Uwe Horn and Klaus Bartonitz. And Klaus Bartonitz has been personal coach for Neeraj Chopra during the last 2 years. I had the pleasure of meeting them here in my hometown, Karlstad, 1.5 months ago, where we made some training sessions together, and Neeraj produced a good competition.
Okay, good. Frank, comment?
Yeah, just very, very quickly, not to forget that Kenya have recently had a pretty powerful javelin thrower. So it's been spread around, guys. But this point about the track, I mean, okay, I'm out of my depth now. Somebody out there hopefully can answer this question. Clearly there's concern about this. Who is going to be involved in redesigning that track surface in the future? Who does it? Where do the recommendations come from? And who delivers on it?
Should be coaches and athletes together. Athletes Commission, for example, in the World Athletics.
So in that case, then, from our position as coaches, I should have a recommendation going through to the Athletes Commission from GACA for them to address this, yeah, or for their opinion. Yeah.
And I will go to my friends who are working with the technical questions inside the World Athletics and ask them, put some pressure on them that something must be done.
Thank you.
Frank, I would suggest possibly somebody should approach Jacob Larson, because this comes under the remit of the competition department, of which he's director. And I think he's a very good ear, a very open ear. And I think that he would be the person to really drive this and put it before the appropriate technical committees.
Yeah, thanks for that. Unfortunately, his ear hasn't been particularly open to the tinkering with the Diamond League format for field events. And also was struggling to get the message through about the ranking system. So I just think you're right. He's the person to speak to, but at the moment, unfortunately, the scales are tilted towards television and entertainment.
Yeah, 2 people hand up. Gunter, you're first.
I would like to request, especially to Anders, that we don't consider this track to be efficient or good for the runners, maybe for the sprinters in respect to performance, but the high structural load, as we discussed the other day, of this surface has caused serious high load on the tendons, the muscles of the distance runners, and there was a lot of complaints. So when we go and discuss how to improve this track, we should please also consider that the distance runners with this type of track are definitely in a borderline prone to injury.
Okay.
Thank you. Understood.
Yeah. Okay. Piotr, your hands up.
Yes, as I know Jakob Larsen, who is director of the competition, I think so if the athletes who are competing there and they know this is the issue, they will write the strong message, he will react. And I know if the coaches make it, it will be not reaction, but if the athletes will react it, that will be strong. He will need to do, and he will do it something. And second thing, I think so by just writing the Frank, even for EAC, email to Mondo that during the conference and the coaches feedback from, that is the issue. I think so Mondo will react also.
Okay, good. Thank you.
As I know the people from the Mondo.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael, quick comment. I got to move on to 10,000 meters next.
Very, very quick. One thing I would suggest is that we could actually do a third-party independent testing and research where you look at the track surfaces, then using universities like I have two here, based in the United States, Howard University and Northeastern Maryland, College Park. Then there are some universities that I'm familiar with in the UK, Sheffield Hallam University, as well as Loughborough University, that have engineers in sports sciences that could actually go through independent research, then work with the major companies like Mondo Sport Services and also Bino Sport Services to actually share that information to have the track work well for all the events and all the sports moving down the road.
Great. Oh, thanks, Michael. And there's actually a person at Loughborough University, I think we all know, that we need to speak to after. I don't think he works there anymore, but I know you guys know what I'm talking about, so we'll get him on board. Okay, 10,000 meters. Gunter, I want you back on your comments. My quick comments is, after the race, both first and third, both Hassan and Diday were like white. I was actually afraid for Hassan. She was under the stands, shaking, her knees were kicking, a little convulsion. And Diday, she looked like she was drunk walking back into the mixed zone. It took a lot out of them. So Gunter, what are your thoughts on the 10,000 today?
The conditions were VBGT 27.2, 28.7 Celsius and 78% humidity. So definitely not an environment for a high endurance performance. It was also, you mentioned both athletes, Jide and Hassan. Kindly recall, Jide is the athlete who took away the world record in 10,000 meter from Hassan, 5 seconds 2 days later after Hassan set the world record. So I was looking forward to this race, but again, like in the 10,000 meter man, the world record holder was not the winner. The strategy of Hassan was crystal clear: kick them, don't do anything for the pace. Geza Hegne tried, was working hard on the pace. Hassan, as expected, did not do too much for it, knowing that her chance to win a third medal is the final kick. Definitely, I agree, they went both to the maximum of their performance, considering the amount of high competition pace Hassan has been done by winning the 5,000, being third in the 1,500, and then doing this incredible gold medal in 10,000. Besides this Hassan, Gide, Gesang Hegne triumph, and recall both Hassan and Gesang were under 30 in that condition. I want to note that from the 800 meter athletes in the Rio Olympics, we had only one athlete now in the whole competition who is still competing and has changed successfully to the 10,000 meters. We had on 5th place Francine Nyanaba from Burundi, and with a respectable time of 30:41 in that condition. And you may also remember that she was disqualified, but time-wise she could have been going if she would not have stepped, and therefore was disqualified in the 5,000. So it will be interesting to watch what this athlete will do in the future. In overall, fantastic race. Congratulations to Hassan to this unprecedented performance.
No, likewise. Thanks for that. I'm wondering if we're ever going to see an athlete like Saeed Awida, who can run 800 up to 10,000 meters. Does that runner exist out there, or has that person yet to be born?
I think that Saeed was a special case. You can have athletes who, like Haile Gebrselassie, over their career develop world records from 5, 10, 15, half marathon to marathon. But to be able to do a middle distance and a long distance in the same period is quite unique. But you also have seen that the 1500 meter, in respect to the others, she made the bronze medal. I think it was a high risk, a high load. She succeeded with 2 gold and 1 bronze. Congratulations.
Yeah, we'll get to the 1500 last. So just hold that thought. Peter Thompson, you had a question on that?
Not a question so much, Jimson, but an observation that I was very, very impressed with Nian Saba, where she placed with the national record and how she made the transition successfully that the caster didn't make. And that Nian Saba, if you remember, she was a silver medalist in the 800 5 years ago. And her coach has brought her to transition to the 10,000 very, very well indeed. And that particular coach also worked with Sally Kipyego. He's the coach to Jake Hayward in the final of 1500 and the coach to Nigel Amos in the 800. And that coach is Mark Rowland. And I think his philosophy, I sense, is that he coaches athletes, he coaches runners, he doesn't coach events. And I think when you do that, you get that breadth of coverage.
Okay. Any other comments on the 10,000 before we move on to the 1500? That's it. Okay, so 1500 meters. Now, I put a little quote from the winner's coach, father. But before we do that, Gunter, first thoughts on the men's 1500 meters before we get to my quote.
I hope that Ibrahim, I saw him before in our panel, is still around. And I want to give him my condolence. It's Europe, it's Norway, it's Great Britain. Okay, there's still one Kenyan left. This was an amazing race, an amazing race. When you look at the times 3:28:32, 3:29:01, 3:29:05, and 3:29. So 4 sub 3:30. I think this was one of the best 1500 meter races we have seen in Olympics. And also to notice that Ingebrigtsen was, who in the past has not been able to compete against Chariot. In this race, he was the one who could control the race and win it successfully. Impressive performance.
No, likewise, very impressive. But what's even more impressive was the quote on Twitter. I copied it and it's on the chat. And the coach said that he thinks, Henrik and Jacob are the same talent, but through trial and error and through knowledge, Jakob ended up being the superstar and winning the gold medal today. Do you believe in that? Do you think Jakob is the same talent as Henrik and he's just better trained, better knowledge?
I don't know their training program good enough to judge this. Now, I think this is speculation, and I don't want to speculate on that level, because the performance we have seen here, this world-class performance, is based on the athlete's ability to adapt the training program and to don't do trial and error and playing around with adaptation, but to make a judgment if this was trial and error and who is better. You have to see, best would be to have both exposed to a similar, not to say the same program, and then you can see in training the difference in adaptation, not by the competition result, because we have a big range of training means and methods, which of course obviously different adaptations to both athletes.
Yeah, but what I find unusual in the comments here, the last two sentences, he can still improve his speed, his endurance, not very much. Now, I know a lot of coaches for 800 and 1500, they're just piling mileage on them, like just garbage miles, just get the miles in. And,
okay,
and
I get you. I got you.
So,
can we recall that Inge Gretson is 20? And when we look into the training, we call it in Germany build up. It is a common methodical error, and this is globally, in middle distance training, that our colleagues start pretty early to develop endurance. And when you look at the build-up, long-term athletic development of some of our top middle distance athletes in this build-up phase, which is until 20, the first component to develop and build up is speed, 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 and coordination. So this is not contradicted. I would consider that this phase in Gretson is now at the end of build-up phase, is dominated by the development of speed, and then you get easier at the endurance. The adaptation for endurance can be added. If you miss the speed development in that crucial phase, then you have definitely reduced the potential for your athlete.
but I heard the commentators on Eurosport today say that Jakob does 110 miles a week. So I don't know about improving endurance, but that's an awful lot of miles to run. I guess that includes all the intervals and morning runs, tempo runs, but I don't know. There's many ways to train for 1500. Endurance is always number one, but I think speed, and that's why I mentioned Saida Wida, because he had a fantastic 800-meter speed, but he also ran a good 10,000 and steeplechase too. So Christine, your thoughts on that? Or you're on?
It is, isn't it? I'm just asking, Gunter. I'm just, because I watched the 800s, and like in the UK, they do a lot of 400s, like Hodgkinson. So I think she ran 53. I don't know if it was 63. She ran 53 something, and I think she was looking to run 52. Now she ended up with 155. I don't know the rest of the time, but 155. Now they're working. I worked with an 800-meter runner, and she was more speed based than she was endurance based. And I'm wondering whether there's a change in our Gunter in the way people are approaching it. I know you said that speed is the most important part of, the development, but are people starting to realize that speed is crucial if you want to win the medals at the highest level?
Yeah, great.
Can I add something on this speed athlete, speed-oriented or endurance-oriented athlete? There's a third position. Tian Maiju, who is the professor of Beijing University, has written his doctor thesis quite some time ago, but I still believe that this is an interesting perspective. He has did a comparative studies between your event, the underdistance, and the overdistance event. And he compared the underdistance and overdistance are like the wings of a bird. So you need both wings to fly. My question is, are we not producing too often one-wing birds and expect them to fly?
Rita, you have your hand up. Comments on that, or your comments?
Remember about 2 evenings ago, we just discussed this, and Gunter also mentioned in this discussion that we see an improvement in the running technique of middle and long distance runners, and that a lot of the coaches are now becoming aware of the strength training, because you can't develop technique if you're not strong enough. So whereas in the past, I've always seen quite a resistance to people towards, unless they're running heels or whatever, but to get them to do proper strength training and whatever they perceive as strength training, whether it includes plyometrics or weights or whatever, is quite something for some middle distance runners to get used to. They don't like it. And the first thing is, I always say, they don't want to become heavy or too muscular or whatever, but it's never the issue if it's done properly. And Gunter has said that the people are doing more strength training. That is why their technique is improving so much. So just that we had this discussion and he has mentioned it.
Yeah, great. Frank, comments on that?
Yeah, it's just a sort of on top of that. I think everything you're saying is absolutely right, 100% strong. But there's another little dimension in all of this as part of our coaching. There are some things in life you can be taught. There are other things in life you can only learn. And that bit of learning usually comes through experience. And the experience from our athlete's point of view is always going to be competition itself. And I thought you saw a classic example of that, not only with Laura Muir in her 1500 meters, but particularly today with Josh Kerr. I think he went into that race thinking he was good enough to get a bronze medal. But it was only in the race itself that he realized he could have had silver. Unfortunately, I think he realized it about 2 seconds too late. Otherwise, he would have had the silver. And I think one of the things about learning through experience is, as Vernon Law said, is that the problem with experience is she's the cruelest of all teachers. She gives you the test first and the lesson second. But we've got to be able to help our athletes understand where that lesson comes from after the experience. First of all, as a coach, make sure you put athletes into situations where the experience will be a learning, enriching thing. Secondly, make sure you're there for them afterwards to ensure that the lesson has been learned.
Good point. And just a little trivia note, we all know who Bud Winter is with Tommy Smith, John Carlos, and Lee Evans' success in 1968. But people don't know that it was actually 1960 with Ray Norton where he learned and failed, and that's where he tweaked the program. So over a period of 8 years, he really went from from good to great. So yes, I do believe in some of these quotes, and I think people do learn from experience, and this is where the success comes in. Any more comments on the 10,000 meters? I think this has been a great discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. We still have a few more minutes here, so this is less events to cover. Any other topics that you want to bring up for 5 more minutes? Because we still have 5 minutes left. Rita, back to you.
It was quite interesting today on social media, and in South Africa we have a News 24, and they always bring up very interesting articles because of the Olympics. And I don't know if you saw, and Giacomo, you most probably will comment on this, is that the 100-meter men, the Italian that won, that his previous nutritionist has been banned from I don't know exactly what he was involved in, but he is now sought after by the police as a big distributor of anabolic steroids. But it is clearly been said that the sprinter has left him 2 or 3 years ago, but now there's a big hoo-ha in the Italian papers that he is claiming to have a lot to do with the success of the Italian sprinters. So that is something quite interesting, and I wonder what's gonna come out of that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Peter?
Please, can I jump in very quickly here? Salazar was found guilty of a number of different things. And unfortunately, those athletes who worked with him were guilty by association, and the media went for them.
Of course.
I think exactly the same
thing.
I think exactly the same thing is happening here, Rita. And I think at this juncture, he is not being accused of doing anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not careful, the press will persuade us that he has, just as they did with Mo Farah. The press are very, very dangerous animals in our sport.
Yeah. Peter Thompson, comments? You're on mute. You're on mute. Hang on, you're on mute. Sorry.
I'm being very good at muting when I'm not speaking. So if I want to come back to the 1500 meters, merely to make an example, we spoke a couple of days ago about how there's possibly an impact happening where more and more foreign students who study at US universities are showing up in the Olympic Forum. And Charles Gretson, was an athlete in the 1500 meter final, who I must admit I wasn't that familiar with. So Charles Gretson from Luxembourg went to study at a small college in Texas, and then he ran for the University of Georgia, and then went back to Luxembourg. So that took me to the University of Georgia website, and where they're now touting the fact that 31 University of Georgia athletes and alumni athletes are competing in Tokyo. And I knew that the University of Oregon had 17 athletes in Tokyo, and was very proud and pleased for that. But the University of Georgia trumps that completely. So I think it's something where we've spoken about and where it needs to be limited. And certainly the media, the Wall Street Journal has published an article on this, the New York Times has published an article on this. And so we may see the sort of limitations on foreign athletes coming in that came in age-related in the late 1970s, when Alberto Salazar, when he was an athlete, and Rudy Chapo were running against the Kenyans at the Washington State University then, who many of them were 27 to 29 years of age. And so at that time, that's when they brought the age regulations in. But now it seems that we need to possibly do something else.
Yeah, possibly. Peter Eriksson, your hands up.
Well, I just want to add to what Frank said earlier about the media is the one that creates this situation. I would like to add that social media is the biggest enemy, because anything that is being said on social media suddenly become the truth, and then you can't defend yourself after that fact. So I just adding to the social media thing.
Yeah, I've noticed social media over the last few Olympics is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Here there was this Belarusian female 200-meter sprinter asked to run the 4x4 on short notice, complains on social media that her coaches don't know what they're doing, and then they forced her to the airport, and now she's living in Poland somewhere. So it's a pretty sad story. I don't know the whole story. I'm just paraphrasing what I read on the news, but social media is very, very powerful now. And I think we all need to be really careful with it. Michael, last comment. We're closing up here. A few minutes, quickly here.
So I have one question. This is kind of for everybody. How do you all feel about the Washington Olympic Committee having a team here at the Olympics with a fair amount of medals going to that team? It seems pretty unique to have a organization be banned, but they're able to have a lot of athletes that compete at a very high level.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Very, very good question. Now, I know we're on the hour here, so tomorrow we have another session, so please join again tomorrow. We have the marathon recap with Gunter, but I think there are a few common themes that have occurred all week. One was shoes, one was tracks. Can we park the ROC team for tomorrow? Is that okay? Because we're out of time now. It will be discussed tomorrow. I promise it will be discussed because we're on the hour here. Frank, last thoughts, and we can close up here. Unless Gunter has Gunter, you're okay?
Very quickly, because we're on time now, and I'm aware that people want to get away. Just a couple of points. At 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, I shall be sitting in on the Oceania coaches session. I know they're very interested in what we've been doing and are looking forward to getting the recordings. I shall pass on your best wishes to them. World Athletics, GACA, will have a session at 4 o'clock UK time tomorrow. I'm not sure if everybody out there has got the link. If that's not the case, I shall get it to Giacomo and get that link out to you so that you can participate should you wish to do so. One particular person on there, Wendy Trevelyan, will be talking to you about the fact that we've got this quarterly event called Coaching Matters. And the one in September is about coaching diversity, where we can spread the whole world, the whole notion of greater involvement of women in coaching and so on. And I know that's going to be a very, very strong session. And I hope people will join in tomorrow, at least to find out what that's all about. My very final points then before thanking everybody here is, as suggested yesterday, I would like you to think very carefully about a key coaching point a key learning point or 3 key learning points that you've picked up in the course of this week. And I'd like us to be able to discuss these tomorrow, because we've got a session, of course, there's the marathon, but I'd like to think that with our key learning points, we can use that to summarize what's been happening this week and what we've learned. Please come with these. And finally then, to you, Jimson, once again, a masterclass in terms of conducting the symphony of inputs that we've got here. Thank you very much indeed for that. Thanks through you to get a hold of Jacobo and thank him for setting up things and unfortunately not being able to be with us this evening. But he's done a great job in drawing this together all week. Huge thanks to you panelists. Your expertise is absolutely fantastic. Oh, let me pass this on to you. Wolfgang had to leave. And he said, what a fantastic experience he's had on these sessions this week. And also for somebody that I think is at the very top end of his coaching, he said, I learned a huge amount from the other panelists, Frank. Great to come from him. I hope you're learning stuff as well. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks everybody else who's joined in. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow on our last session. Over to you, Jimson.
No, thank you very much. But before I remind everybody, tomorrow, same time, 6 p.m. UK time, 7 Europe, wherever you are. Tomorrow, I'm looking forward to Gunter. I want to hear about the marathon tomorrow, your thoughts. It's in 3.5 hours, so just get on that bus and make sure you get to the start line. So Gunter, thank you very much. Laura and Rita, Peter Thompson, Christine, Anders, welcome. Thank you again. Your input has been very valuable, as well as Piotr and Kevin, who also helped out, and Peter Erickson as well. Thank you for all your comments. I appreciate everything. Let's see you again tomorrow. Bring your questions. We will talk about the ROC tomorrow. Very good point as well. So once again, thank you all. See you tomorrow.